Alright guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about why I simply cannot stop playing Wrath of the Lich King Classic. And in general why Wrath is becoming such a great success in the Classic community, because it's pretty obvious to everyone that Wrath is doing extremely well. The game is thriving. The server queues were utterly insane on launch, basically the same as a Classic WoW launch. Records have been broken on Warcraft logs. This is the most amount of people that have been logged in raids since Blackwing Lair. But why has the game been so successful? Obviously, it's a number of different things that we'll talk about today, but it boils down to the holy trinity of features in Wrath of the Lich King that transcend the game over its previous expansions. And I think it's very simply class design, multiple raid difficulties, and dual spec. And for the sake of adding one more, it's definitely the ease of access for alt. This is a very alt-friendly expansion. By the way guys, we are doing a gaming keyboard giveaway on this video. I'm going to be giving away the Corsair K55. This is the keyboard that I do actually personally use. This seriously is the best keyboard I've ever owned. These things were built to last the apocalypse, to be honest. I've spilled beer on it multiple times and it still works. And when I was learning Adobe Premiere Pro and getting extremely stressed out at that process, I smashed this keyboard into my desk and the desk ended up worse off than the keyboard. The point is, it's an extremely well-built keyboard. All the keys are totally remappable in the software. You've got extra buttons going up the side. You've also got a little bit of a music player in the top right-hand corner, which is very useful when you're playing tunes and stuff. All you have to do to enter the giveaway is leave a comment down below. It could literally be anything, like your favourite 80s movie. And be sure to be subscribed to the channel, because I obviously will be checking that also. Now in Wrath, there simply isn't a class that's boring and unfun to play. This is why it's so hard to pick an alt, or even to pick a main character if you didn't play in TBC. The days of the one-button spamming classes are simply over, unless you're playing an arcane mage, but even then, they do cast arcane missiles sometimes. Every class has a fun and interesting rotation. Some are simpler than others, admittedly, but you're definitely more fun than playing a Warlock in TBC, where you're just spamming Shadow Bolt for 2 years straight. The Warlock is a good example here, because they've gone from sacrificing their pet and spamming one button the whole time, with the occasional curse, to being actually able to use their pet, which adds a little bit of complexity to the class, another layer of playstyle, being able to use all of their dots, able to use different casted abilities, and they also have procs, cooldowns, extra maneuverability, and all the good stuff that just makes a class fun. Every class also has a form of useful AoE now. There aren't certain specs that feel like a wet noodle when taking on trash mobs in a raid. Imagine having to continue doing your single target damage rotation on AoE trash, where the other DPS can just salviate over their AoE abilities like Seed of Corruption or Arcane Explosion. Those days are totally over, with the addition of, for example, a Priest's Mindseer, a Paladin's Divine Storm, and the Rogue's very fun Fan of Knives, and the Boomkin having no cooldown on Hurricane, just to name a few good examples. Also, a lot of the rather irritating limitations have been taken away from classes, like Warriors not being able to charge in combat, because, I mean, who on earth thought that was a good idea? Prot Paladins needing spell power to generate threat, or Shaman's Bloodlust only affecting one party at a time, so you'd have to bring multiple to a raid. All of these early strange and irritating design decisions by Blizzard that have eventually, in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, been improved upon. Back in the day, we didn't really know any better, and obviously in Classic WoW, we now know that these improvements did eventually happen, so we've just been dying for these improvements to finally happen to our classes. With there being multiple raid difficulties, it automatically means there's a much more content for each player to experience. Effectively, right now, there's 8 raids that you can experience. Obviously, some are mini raids, but my point is, there's a lot for one character to do. For a very long time, it is fairly difficult to run out of stuff to do in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. There's normally upgrades from both 10-man and 25-man gear-wise. You get badges which can be turned into gear pieces from a vendor, and even if you're BIS geared, it's worth farming badges for the BOE gear that you can sell for gold. But once you have an alt, I mean, that's it. You have absolutely no time to play any other game other than World of Warcraft. WoW will consume all of your free time. And we're not even experiencing the best raids of the expansion. Ordoir and Icecrown Citadel are better than Naxxramas by a country mile when it comes to fun, challenge and mechanics. There's a reason why 50,000 people have been raiding Icecrown on Warmane servers every week for years. Year upon year, people are raiding that raid. And people are still raiding on this server with a decent population despite the fact that Wrath of the Lich King Classic is out. People really do love Icecrown Citadel. Dual Spec is the most liberating feature added to the game. So for instance, right now on my Death Knight I have my main Unholy raid spec. But without Dual Spec, what if I wanted to go farm some gold or farm some vanilla or TBC raids for mounts? Well, I would struggle, first of all, in Holy Spec. I could probably get through it, but it wouldn't be very fun, because Blood Spec would obviously be much better for soloing raid bosses. I'd also definitely struggle to push arena rating in a dual-wielding PvE spec without key abilities like Lichborn and Anti-Magic Zone. But with Dual Spec, it frees you to enjoy more content that the game has to offer. I can farm mounts, I can do arena if I want to, but with a press of a simple button. And because it's much easier to farm gold in Wrath of the Lich King Classic with daily quests, even if I need to respec one of my specs, it doesn't really break the bank because 2 quests at level 80 will basically cover the cost, whereas in vanilla and TBC, respecing really did break the bank. Maybe not so much in TBC when GDKPs took over with a storm, but you get my point. The game is also much more alt-friendly, and by the looks of Blizzard interviews, it's going to be even more alt-friendly in the future with the Heroic Plus modes. 10-man raids are easy to jump into for gear. All you need really is some good heroic pieces, and then heroic dungeons are easy enough to jump into with basic questing greens. You're constantly farming emblems to spend on gear upgrades, so it never really feels like you're wasting your time in a raid. Even if you don't need gear in a raid, you can go and do it just for the emblems. You can even buy tier pieces before you even step into a raid with emblems of heroism. VOE class runs also help you get tier pieces much easier, if you're lucky anyway. Leveling is much faster now because the amount of experience required to get to max level has been reduced, especially with the 20% XP buff that you get from heirlooms, combined with the 10% Wintergrass buff when you do hit Northrend. Can also give you alt a flying mount at level 70, so open world questing in Northrend becomes even faster the second time round. And with a new LFG finder, it's ridiculously easy to find groups for dungeons. It's even faster than the dungeon finder, in my experience anyway. And when the game is alt friendly, if you run out of stuff to do on your main, you won't be as hesitant to start playing an alt because the ease of access to get back to max level is faster. I never made an alt in Classic WoW. The prospect of spending 7 days playtime just to get a character leveled up to 60 was about as appealing as rewatching Amazon's The Lord of the Rings Rings of Power, which is a crap title for a series. I mean, when the series' title is a tongue twister in itself, it just goes to show that the writers of that program are basically chimpanzees. TBC also had a lot of achievement requirements, and although they did eventually get removed, it did slow the progress of getting an alt into a raid group. We kind of think achievements are nice. They make progression steadier and convey that iconic adventure-like feel that we love about RPGs, but they do deter you from making an alt character. I don't think achievements should have been necessarily removed in Wrath of the Lich King, but you definitely shouldn't have to do them a second time round on an alt, because at that point it just becomes tedious. I feel like Wrath of the Lich King has the best elements of vanilla and retail combined. If you imagine retail World of Warcraft as a steak, it's definitely a rump steak. It's edible, and when it's cooked well, it is decent to taste and eat. But Wrath of the Lich King Classic is the filet mignon. It's a tasty and tender cut of steak with no fatty trimmings on it. The fat has been cut away. Retail has a lot of fat on it. A lot of stupid, unnecessary features that kill the MMO in World of Warcraft. Wrath of the Lich King Classic still feels like an MMO because there is no cross-server nonsense. By the way guys, if you don't already know, I am doing a little bit of a charity event very soon on the channel, which is the Spooktacular Streamathon charity event that is hosted by Gamers Outreach. Going to be doing that now. I'm going to be doing it on the Sunday, not the Monday. Long story short, I'm going to play horror games. I'm going to make an accident in my pants for your enjoyment. And in the process, you know, we're going to raise a little bit of money for charity. This is a charity that builds these cool kiosks, which is like a gaming station that they can wheel around hospitals so that hospitalised children can still play video games while they are in hospitals. A great charity doing loads of great work, so stay tuned for that on Sunday night. It's going to be the 30th of October. I'll put a post out very soon of what time I'm going to be live in every single time zone around the country. Not the country, around the world, obviously. Anyway, my name is MetaGoblin. To my next video. Ciao.